Hi guys, welcome back to Bunnybrook Designs. So we're going to be finishing up these earrings. So I've made the two, and they're mirrors. So now we're going to be finishing these off, and I've decided I'm going to make them studs, and I'm going to flip them around so that this is the top. So the first thing we're going to have to do in order to put these on and make sure they're in the right place is I need to trim. So this is going to be something where, because I'm using white on white, this is going to be very delicate. You're going to want to trim around, but making sure you don't trim your thread. One thing you could do, and I will show you a little trick here, get it close and then take something and just brush the edges where you think the edges are, because this right here with the gold on the back is highlighting, as you can see, my thread. I don't care about the center threads. I just care about where my threads are so that I can see, and you can do the same on this side, but again, I don't know where my edges are going to be really great, really great until I start trimming. So I'm just going around real quick, not doing anything super close, but close enough that I now have, a shape that, and you'll have to forgive me, I've got threads everywhere. I'm going to have to do a deep clean on my craft room. So now I'm just highlighting, as you can see, I can see with the glow, because it does glow, and I don't know if you can see that real well on camera, but if you see there, you can see where the threads are highlighted when it hits the light. Just enough that I can see when I'm trimming where my threads are. So I'm going to trim this as close as I can get it without cutting my threads. And then the little trick in getting in here is we're going to have to trim in like that, and that's pretty close. Again, just trying to get it as close as I possibly can. And it's okay if it goes a little bit under, because I do want these to stick out more than the edging beads. I'm just going to do a little snip there, a little snip there, and just make sure that I am getting into my corner without trimming. So there. So now I don't have anything really showing on this side. Maybe a little bit more there. Interior corners are hard to get into. All right, so there's the first one. All nice and trimmed up. So that's what it's going to look like. And it's funny because I wasn't liking it on the felt, but now that I can see that, I'm liking it a little bit better. And here's the one we did together on camera, and I'm trimming as close to the edge as I can get it. Again, without getting threads. And we're getting pretty close to that one, but that's fine. And yeah, I just snipped a tail, but that's fine. If you happen to cut a tail, don't worry about it. We're going to be gluing it anyways, and there's knots, so all right. There we go. And there's number 2. All right, so now, actually, that looks kind of fun like that. I'm really liking this look. So now I'm just going to flip them over, and now I have my, I can see where my outline is, and I'm just going to trim. There we go. I'm trying to make this nice and rounded, as round as I can get it. So now we've got our points facing up, and I'm going to take some E6000, and I'm going to put a nice dollop of glue on that, and I'm just going to set these down. I'm not going to stick it down just yet, because what I want to do is I want to look at it, and I'm looking at it so it's straight on for me, and I'm getting it exactly where I want it in the center, and then I'm just going to push that down, and I'm getting it as close as I can to the top, as much in the center as I can, and again pushing it down. Now we're going to have to let this dry. And I've decided I'm just going to put black suede over the backs, and I'm going to use 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to do some 11-0s around the border to finish this off. But we're going to leave this dry for at least an hour, maybe longer, just because if I don't, then this has will run the risk of moving like that, and I don't want it to move when I pierce my fabric, because I want these to hang properly. So I'm going to pause for a bit, and I will be right back. For you, it'll be a few seconds. For me, it'll probably be a few hours. But I'm going to do that so that we can then finish this off. So we'll be back in a second. All right, guys, so we're back. So it is dry enough. It's not perfect. I am going to literally just before I kind of want to make a hole in this, and because I don't have something white that I can necessarily see, I'm going to see if I can punch a hole in it with a paper punch. I don't know if I'll be able to. I'm going to give it a shot. And that worked. So now let me see if this is... So it's right up to the edge there. That's perfect. Not a whole lot of trimming here, but that's fine. And so I can maybe go down just a hair. I'm going to go over. I'm going to actually leave this in here. And then I am going to go over just a hair. And put that on there. So now I've got my holes punched, which is going to make it easier when I glue this down. And so what I'm going to do real quick before I do any gluing is I'm just holding these here just so I can see where I need to cut my fabric. And so that's going to be perfect. And like I said, it's going to be tight up at the top here, but that's, you know, it'll work. So the next thing we're going to do, and we are going to take a lot of E6000, including over that metal, and I'm almost out of glue in this tube. I hope I have enough to do this. I'm going around my post, trying to make sure that I get all of the threads without going super close to the edge. And I'm just going to set that on there. And I'm going to pick the side of fabric that I want out. And I'm going to lay that down and stick that down. Now what this is going to do, not only is this going to glue down the felt, or the suede, I should say, but it's also going to do additional gluing to that post so that that post isn't going to go anywhere. All right, let's see if we have enough glue in this to do this one. And see, this is why I like this, because 4 or 5 projects and I'm out of a tube of glue, which is good because then this doesn't have a chance to dry out. And I do have other tubes, so I am just going to squeeze as much glue out of here as I can. Little trick is if you bend it like that, the glue's not going to go back up in the tube when you're squeezing. I've had that happen several times, and I'm going to get this out of the way so that that doesn't get any glue on it. Get my tails in there. All right, so now we've got our glue going. And I am just going to put this down, give it a good press, and we are going to need to let this dry. So I'm probably going to let it dry overnight, and then I will come back tomorrow and we will finish beading. So it'll be a few seconds for you. It'll be overnight for me because I really want this to set up really good. So anyways, we'll be back. All right, guys. So it's been a little while. I let the glue dry. I didn't let it dry overnight. I just let it dry, let it dry a little bit. I am going to snip now, right in and along. I'm going to start doing my inner corners first, just because those are going to be challenging, to say the least, to get them as close as possible without cutting. So I'm just going to do little V's here. And then I am going to start snipping around the edge. And doing the best that I can to get as close to the felt without cutting any felt. And trying to make it as round as I possibly can and as smooth as I possibly can, just so it's not bumpy when I'm stitching. So and it's going to be challenging. But doable. As long as you have something to stitch into. And again, I can go underneath these beads here and stitch, which is definitely what I want to do. I don't want the beads that I'm going to be using to show too much, mostly because I don't know if these are going to be the same gold or they're a little bit lighter. I might play with the gold colors and see if I can find more yellow. I think these might be more to the, yeah, the galvanized Starlight might be closer to the color. Anyways, so once you've got it all trimmed and it's not bumpy, or it's as, try to get the least amount of bumpiness to it as possible. And you will have little snips like that on your tray. One of the things I've done in the past, and I'm going to grab a pair of regular scissors here, and I'm just going to take a little piece of, I have packing tape here, and the beauty of this is on the fabric, before I go any further, I'm just going to clean up my mess just by packing tape. And I usually do this when I'm working off camera, just so I don't have too much of a mess. Now you could do this over trash, or you could do this, you know, you could do the trimming over trash so you don't have to clean up. But because I'm on camera, I'm doing it over top of my working area. Now that you've got it trimmed, I took a piece of, I've got black Fireline here, and I am just going to make a knot, if I can, in my thread. Usually this works, wrapping it around my finger a couple of times and rolling the thread. It's just not wanting to work tonight. So we'll just do that. And that didn't work. So you could also do it by tying knots like this a couple of times. Just wrapping the thread over. We'll trim. And see, it didn't quite go in the same spot, but that's fine. Because again, I'm going to do several knots because I want a fairly decent sized knot so that I know it's not going to be coming out. There we go. And I'm just going to trim that so I have a little knot there. Not super big, not super small. And I'm just going to come in between the felt and the suede, and I'm going to pull toward the front. And I'm just going to get it started. Now, I didn't start quite on the point, mostly because I don't want it, I want to end where I don't have a bead directly on the point. So I'm going to start slightly off to the side, and I am just going to come back through, and we've done this before, but I'm going to do it on a diagonal. So when I'm going through my, here, let me see if I can get this. So when I'm going through my suede, I'm putting it where I need it to be here, but instead of going straight up, I'm kind of going on a diagonal. So I'm kind of doing something like that when I'm coming up through, just so that I can get a good bite of the felt, but also come up from underneath the other seed beads. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to come up where your needle's coming up in between those beads. I guarantee you it won't look good. So now we're just going to continue on working with our one seed bead at a time, getting a good bite of the fabric. Now, the reason why I switched to black thread, because I've been working with white on this all along, I switched to black because my backing is black, and oh, excuse me. And if I'm whatever color thread, if you can match your thread to your backing, so if you have blue backing, blue thread, you know, orange backing, orange thread, if you can do that, it's so much better because your threads on the back are hidden better. And see, that one came right up underneath that seed bead, but because it's just a thread, that seed bead will lay back down. So, all right. So I'm going to go around. I will get to this corner, and then I will show you how we go around the corners, and I will be right back. All right, guys. So I've gone down and around, and I've got maybe 2 beads left on the interior here. So this is going to be bead 1 on this side, and maybe 1 more will fit into the corner. So now you're going to have to decide which bead is going to be directly in the corner and which bead is going to be setting on top. So I think because I've got a pretty good space there, this top part is going to have the bead on the interior. So we are going to go down right into the corner and come up. And so now, as you can see, okay, and I'm going to bring you up close. As you can see, this bead is right at this corner. It's right against the edge. So when I do my next bead and I put it in, it's going to be starting to go in the other direction. So it's going to be going like this way where the thread is going. And so I need to come onto my other side, not necessarily, and I'm trying not to split thread here. So there we go. I'm on the right side of the purple beads, and I'm going to come through now. So now we're starting, as you can see, that bead is starting in the opposite direction. So there is a tiny little gap right here, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt it, but we're going to continue on, and now we're going to continue beading around, and I will meet you back up when we get to the point, and we're about ready to finish up. All right, guys, so I've gotten up almost to the point, and we've got, looks like 1 more bead on this side here, and possibly 1 bead on that side there. So I am going to put on my last bead here and go through pretty close to the point. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is have a bead directly on the point. Otherwise, it'll form more rounded. And see, that's kind of perfect. I think 1 on the other side, and we should be good to go. And see, and not. So that one ended up on the point. It's going to end up on the point. And it's not what I want, but I'm going to see if maybe I can shift it here just a little so that it's not directly on the point. There may be a little bit of a space, but not too much. And then I can go down through that bead there, pull it tight, go back through the fabric just once, and then come back up through the first bead here, just to straighten that bead out just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. So, well, it looks like it's somewhat on the point. It's not perfect, not what I wanted to do, but now we have a round, nice round edging. I am going to take my thread, go back through a bead, and then I am going to go through some of these purple beads and then tie a knot, go through some more purple beads, and cut off my thread. So there's one knot. I'm going to go through a couple more. That is if I can get my needle in. Or go back up through. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter which direction you go in. And so there's 2 knots, and I think I'm going to cut off here at the top and be done. So I put 2 knots in. And there you go. So anyways, so that is the bead embroidery earring. I'm going to finish this one up, this other one up, and yeah, so I'm going to finish the other one up off camera, and I think it's really kind of cool. It's not quite what I had in mind, but again, it's art, so it's never going to be perfect. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching.